Welcome everybody back to another episode of the show, and Matt and I are going to get you ready for some high school basketball playoff action, which is sweeping across our area this evening, and of course going into the weekend with some college and pro information as always. But I am joined once again by my faithful co-host, who is overcoming again some little internet issues, but I think we've got him back online and we are ready to roll here. Matt, let's just know that your internet is going to work and everything's going to be fine, and it's going to be a great Friday.
That's right. That's right. And whether it is a great Friday or not is not contingent on the internet. And beautiful place to watch a basketball game you got behind you there.
I do. Yes, I will be in Hallsville. Of course, I live in Hallsville, but I will be in Bobcat Coliseum, which you see behind me here as my press box backdrop for the day. And a big playoff game happening over here as Elysian Fields comes over to face Hawkins, and on the boys' side in an area round playoff game. Kind of looking forward to it. I haven't been able to go to a playoff game yet this season, so I'm really looking forward to it. When they come into your own backyard, it's kind of hard to miss it.
Yeah, and of course, you know, you and I have talked about Nunu Kennedy all podcast long as we've had this podcast, and can't wait to see how he does tonight. Tough matchup. You know, it's funny. So much of what we do at KMHT hinges on tonight. This is our last basketball team in the area that we covered. And, you know, baseball and softball are beginning district play. We got to get to covering those, but we can't.
Yeah.
We keep covering basketball games, and, you know, there's only so many resources you've got. So we're anxious to see, does basketball finally end tonight? Gosh, how cool would it be though if they moved on to the next round? That would be really neat. But we're sort of in this holding pattern and waiting game to see what's going to happen with basketball.
Very much so. The rock and the hard place. You want your basketball teams to do well, obviously, but then you're kind of itching to get going with baseball and softball because they're kind of knocking down your door as well. So I do not envy you guys out there at KMHT. Again, I'm lucky. I just get to pick and choose which games I want to go to and enjoy them as fans. Before we get going too much more on today's show, though, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsors. East Texas Baptist University combines strong academics with championship level athletics and a Christ-centered mission that impacts every part of campus life. If you're looking for a university that values faith, competition, and community, ETBU is the place for you. Learn more about life on the Hill here in Marshall, Texas at www.etbu.edu. Today's show is also brought to you by Styles Electric, based right here in East Texas with offices in Longview and Mount Pleasant. Styles Electric has been providing dependable, professional electrical work for over a quarter century in East Texas and beyond. When experience matters, Styles Electric delivers service that speaks for itself. And finally, today's episode is also brought to you by Right Team Services. Right Team Services helps schools, small businesses, and nonprofits turn ideas into impact through effective writing, clear messaging, and meaningful connection across your websites and social media platforms. When you need results but don't quite have the words to say, let Right Team Services provide the voice that you need. Contact me today at 903-926-1766 or visit our website at www.rightteamservices.net to learn more about how we can help you tell your story. Speaking of high school basketball, let's stay here. We did have one game last night that was played on the boys' side down in Tenaha. That was St. Augustine knocking off Overton 52-38. So the Wolves move on to the regional semifinal round down there. But all the other action is under the lights per se this evening in our area gyms and such. And congratulations to St. Augustine as they are moving on in the postseason. But you know, and we mentioned this yesterday. If you want to go see high school basketball and playoff basketball, you have no excuse because there's a game happening somewhere near you this evening, most likely, if you live in our listening area here in East Texas, right?
For sure. I mean, your town, my town, and places all around. They're there.
Couple going on over there in your town.
Just one tonight.
Well, yeah, for the weekend though. But you got one going on at ETBU for sure over there tonight as well. Yeah. Tatum and Liberty Allo, that's a big one on the boys' side. That game tips off at 6:30. Jefferson, of course, is playing in that same region. They'll be playing Grand Saline. Bulldogs have designs on the state tournament, guys. They're very, very talented basketball team. But anyway, they're playing tonight at Gladewater. Of course, the game you will be at, literally working at there in Maverick Gym. And that is Pleasant Grove and Chapel Hill. That game tips off there in Marshall tonight at 7 o'clock. So all kinds of good action going on. Again, the schedule is updated and on our Right Team Podcast Facebook page. So if you want to go check out all the action going around and want to watch a game tonight, we've got it all up there for you. On the girls' side, I was either wrong or they made a change. So I'm not sure which one. Probably I was wrong. But there was no girls' game actually played last night. The one I had on my schedule that was played to be played last night, Sereno and Martins Mill is actually playing this evening at 7:00. There
Gotcha.
at Taylor Junior College. So that game was not played. I was pulling my hair out while what I have left trying to find the score on that. And then I realized or found that they actually are on the schedule for this evening. So
Gotcha.
most likely I was wrong on that one. But again, the girls are playing in their region finals. Really no one within our Harrison, Marion County type area that's closer to us, but there are some schools, of course, playing who we are either in our area districts or somewhat close to what we consider to be our coverage area. North Lamar, Liberty ILO, San Augustine, and of course that Sereno Martins Mill matchup includes some teams that we directly cover here on the Right Team Podcast. So those games are also being played this evening, all tipping off at. One tips off at 6:30 there, Liberty ILO and Rains playing there in Mount Pleasant at 6:30. The rest, North Lamar, Dallas, Lincoln, San Augustine, Marlin, and the Sereno Martins, all tipping off at 7:00 at their various locations. Again, those games are also updated on our Right Team Podcast Facebook page.
You're getting down to it with the girls. I mean, the next step is the state tournament. So you're getting down to it.
And we talked about wanting to cover baseball and softball and itching to do that. I actually have it here on my – I've got it kind of in a holding pattern here. I haven't really dove straight into it as far as scheduling and things like that. But, I mean, obviously there is a possibility after this weekend, at least on the UIL girls side, that we may not have any particularly close teams that we're following make it, of course, to Austin. So we'll see how that goes. We may, and my plan, I would love to start kind of covering some high school baseball and softball next week and talking about that next week and kind of catch up on some soccer action if we can. It's going to be a busy spring here on the podcast.
Well, here's something funny about baseball. I don't know when I've seen this. So Marshall was playing in a tournament last night in Lindale, and they played Crandall. Again, this is baseball. Game ended in a tie. That happens in tournaments, right? Time constraints, and at the end of the day, it's just what you got to do. 0-0 tie in 9 innings. I don't know if the answer was great pitching defense, not great hitting, or some combination of both. But seeing a 9-inning 0-0 tie in high school baseball, I was like, man, I don't know that you see that very often. I was kind of stunned by that.
Yeah, that's a playoff type matchup.
Yeah,
good here early on in February, of course, and yeah, and I've been on both sides of that as far as covering a baseball tournament game this time of year, and then also being a parent in those things. And you're battling, of course, yes, the time limits and everything comes into effect, and you can get some really wonky records later in the year that.
Yeah.
If you see a tie on someone's baseball or softball record, that it happened in tournament play this time of year. Of course, got a couple more weeks of this of tournament action. And then districts, by and large, will pick up at or right around spring break, which is actually for most schools here in the next week or two. So
Marshall's district opener is Tuesday night, and softball just had their district opener. So we're here.
Yeah, you're already there. So this is what we do in East Texas, and we talk about the fall and the busyness of that. But there is no more busy sports season in Texas than the spring season, and particularly right at this point where you got basketball ending as well. But that's kind of what we live for around here, right?
For sure.
Let's stick with basketball and kind of give an update from what you and I saw last night in some top 25 action and perhaps how some of these are going to affect. Matt, I'm going to be honest. Had some stuff going on around the house yesterday and did not get a whole lot of chance to kind of follow what was going on, but I know there was one that you mentioned on the men's side that was of particular importance there in the Big Ten with Michigan State and Purdue. with the Spartans going on the road and actually upsetting. I don't want you to call that an upset, 13-8, but 76-74, they not taking down the Boilermakers.
The fact that it was on the road, I think, does qualify it as an upset. I think that, I've been talking about Michigan State and Kansas, kind of bouncing them back and forth as one of them a 3, one of them a 4. I think it looked like Kansas kind of maybe took the reins when they beat Houston. But I think that Michigan State might have reclaimed it because this one was on the road. Also, Purdue is one of those, and again, not that this is a bad loss. In no way is this a bad loss, but Purdue was one of those that's kind of in tight competition for a 2 seed or a 3 seed. You've got Purdue, Florida, Illinois, maybe Houston, and there's only room for 3 of them. Feel like Purdue's probably the odd man out. If they had won that game, that might have put them back in the 2 line. But I think right now, I feel like Purdue's pretty securely a 3. There's still some room for maneuvering, but that was a big win on the road for Michigan State, and it was a great ball game.
On the ladies' side of the top 25, some big matchups going on with ranked teams playing last night in the SEC in particular. Number 4, Texas holds home serve. The Lady Horns are undefeated at home this season. They got cruised to a big win over 23rd ranked Georgia, 79-50 there in the Moody Center. And then also being played in the SEC, number 24 Alabama was on the road at Vanderbilt, with the Commodores coming away with an 85-60 victory in that one. So some movers and shakers there in the SEC. Another big matchup as well. Tennessee, man, what has happened to the Lady Vols? They fall to 16-11 on the season, 8-7 in the SEC, with a 89-73 loss at number 6 LSU. Also wanted to point out here again, no big surprise here. UConn improves to 30-0 on the season with a 84-52 win over Georgetown. Matt, the Huskies outscored the Hoyas in the second quarter, 27-5.
Man.
In that game after a 21-20 first quarter. So, hey, Georgetown, you hung with them for 10 minutes, and all you did was upset them because they took the game over in the second quarter, which is what that team can do, obviously, for you. So, or to you. Yep. So again, big action coming up this weekend. Matt, what are you, or what do you suggest as far as games coming up that are kind of can't miss as far as watching, particularly on the men's side?
Well, and I was gonna make this my back page because it was really, really unique, but I'll go ahead and say it right now. Just doing a little digging. I don't know when you've ever seen something like this in
you have my attention already.
Friday, Michigan plays Illinois. If you look at the Big Ten standings, Michigan is alone in first. Illinois is tied for second. So number 1 versus number 2, although there's multiple number 2s. Still, it's a number 1 versus number 2 matchup in Illinois. That is tonight. Then you go to Saturday. And at 11 o'clock Saturday, Duke and Virginia play at Cameron Indoor Stadium. By the way, Duke's number 1 in the ACC. Virginia is number 2, if you haven't picked up on where I'm going. Kansas plays at Arizona at 3 o'clock on Saturday. Arizona is number 1 in the Big 12. There is a 4-way tie for second in the Big 12, which includes Kansas. So in the Big 12, number 1 plays number 2. College Game Day for ESPN is out at the O'Connell Center in Florida for the Arkansas-Florida matchup in the SEC. Florida is number 1 in the SEC. Arkansas tied with Alabama for number 2. So in the SEC, number 1 versus number 2. And if that's not enough, why don't we go ahead and throw a 9:30 matchup on ESPN with 28-2 Gonzaga playing 26-4 St. Mary's, which, by the way, they're number 1 and number 2 in their conference. So 5 matchups, 4 of them in the major conferences of the number 1 team in the conference playing the number 2 team in the conference. I don't ever remember something like that in one weekend.
And I don't believe you even got to or mentioned, because it didn't fall in that particular category, but what about number 16 Texas Tech and number 4 Iowa?
Iowa State. Yeah. Yes. And what about Alabama and Tennessee, both ranked? I
Right.
mean, it is a basketball week of all basketball weekends. It's going to be crazy.
It is an all-day thing, which is kind of what we see in the fall, right? I mean, if you're so inclined, you can sit back in your chair and watch a full day of college basketball, and meaningful college basketball for sure. And I'm going to just guess. I mean, of course, we have your back row bracketology, which will be updated on Monday, that this has the potential to really cause quite a shakeup on your S curve.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. One thing about playing games like that, though, I mean, like, take Virginia playing at Duke. If Duke beats Virginia by 10 points Saturday, did anybody expect anything less? Like, I don't know that Virginia's really going to be punished all that much. Where it's going to be really big is, we talked about this Kansas, Michigan State back and forth. Well, look, if Kansas goes to Arizona and wins, well, that may be their anything you can do, I can do better kind of thing. So we're at a point right now where radical moves on the S curve aren't really happening unless you get 2 and 3 games back to back to back where you either do really good or really poorly. So we will see, but well, any way you look at it, boy, if you're wondering, is there some good sports on Saturday? Gosh, just go watch college basketball. And it starts tonight, actually, with the Michigan-Illinois game. It's going to be fantastic.
And I also wanted to, while we're still in the college ranks here, I wanted to kind of go ahead and just kind of start unveiling a little bit about college baseball. Of course, we're going to shift to that as soon, full time, really, as soon as, of course, March Madness is done. College baseball, college softball, and right now, I mean, unless you're just really following your team, you may not be so caught up in what's going on. Again, a lot of non-conference action, which again we talked about a little bit before. On Tuesdays, those are more money games to where you're trying to get at bats for your guys. You're trying to get some innings for some folks kind of at the bottom of your rotation. So there's not a whole lot of action that really happens midweek. Kind of interesting, though, yesterday there were some games that were played in baseball, college baseball, leading into the weekend, and just a couple of them stood out to me. And we're going to kind of go over where we are as far as top 25 at this point in the season in baseball. But, of course, for me personally, I follow Dallas Baptist. Of course, my son,
Sure,
graduate of there, played baseball there for the Patriots. Kind of one of the best kept secrets, even now in terms of college baseball and their success over the years. But go back and just check out how consistently DBU wins their conference, which they're in Conference USA now. They were in the Missouri Valley Conference when my son was playing, but they have stepped up into Conference USA. They are the favorites perennially there at Conference USA in baseball, and of course coming off of getting swept this past weekend, I believe, at UTSA. But they did return to action on Thursday night and held off Oral Roberts 6-5, improved to 6-3 there at DBU. And just some other things here. I did notice that USC and USC was playing. They improved to 8-0 on the season with a win over Cal Poly, 4-0. And kind of interesting here. You look at kind of an in-state rivalry game that was played last night. Wichita State hosted Omaha, which, of course, you can't say college baseball without thinking of the word Omaha or Peyton Manning, really. Wichita State wins that one 3-2. The Shockers improve to 7-2 on the year. And another game out west, actually, BYU went to Washington State and it takes a 6-4 win there. And I think of BYU, but I don't know if you've ever seen the picture of BYU's baseball field. That might be a bucket list item for me to go watch a game there with the snow-capped mountains nestling right up to the outfield fence at BYU.
It is
It's
something.
a beautiful place to watch baseball.
My goodness, it is something.
Just a quick look now at the D1Baseball.com poll, which is the one that actually ESPN has listed on their website. And look, I don't want to go on to too much of an extended rant here, and I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and think, again, they're focused more on college basketball right now. But, I mean, it is ESPN, the worldwide sports leader. But you have to really do a deep dive on their website to find anything about college baseball or softball, for that matter.
You do.
And I could be missing it, but I'm kind of hoping that kind of gets bumped up toward closer to the front page, because it is one of the sports that's gaining in popularity in the NCAA by leaps and bounds. And they could be missing a huge opportunity with the stuff that's happening in Major League Baseball over the next few months. So just kind of a warning out there. I'm going to be watching to see if baseball and softball get pushed forward a little bit in terms of importance. But it's really hard to find anything about it when you're looking on ESPN's website.
Yeah, it is. You have to pretty much know right where to go.
Now, if you have the right streaming service and the right plan on that, you can catch a lot of college baseball on ESPN Plus, right?
Correct.
But as far as on their websites, man, it's really hard to track down stuff. But let's kind of get into this poll here, just to kind of mention some things if you haven't seen it. But D1Baseball.com, their most recent poll has UCLA at number 1. And then LSU comes in at number 2 and 8-0. The University of Texas comes in at number 3. The Longhorns, of course, are undefeated on the season. Kind of noticing some, obviously, the SEC dominance here. But after UCLA at number 1, you got LSU 2, Texas 3, Mississippi State 4, then Georgia Tech's at 5. But then you go back to the SEC with Arkansas, Auburn, and then Florida rounds it out at 10. And then you keep going in the top 11 with Georgia coming in at number 11. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the top 11 teams in the country, at least in the poll this week on the baseball side, are SEC schools.
Yeah. And it's right now women's basketball, baseball, and softball. It's just SEC and everybody else. Not saying that guarantees they're going to win a national championship, but that's what it is. That's the reality.
Yeah. If you go through the entire top 25, 12 of the ranked teams are SEC schools. You still got Oklahoma, you go to, which is at number 13, and then you go to Tennessee at 20, Kentucky at 22, A&M at 23, and then Ole Miss rounds it out at 25. The Rebels are ranked 25th in the country with an 8-0 mark. So, I don't know about college basketball. We've talked, it's kind of seemed to dip a little bit just in terms of dominance, but at least here at the start of the season, SEC baseball is rolling and very well respected. And you mentioned softball as well. And you know how much I hate to give him any love, but I saw a tweet yesterday that came out. Through their first 11 games, I believe, Oklahoma softball is at 56 home runs.
Yeah.
They're on pace to shatter, I believe, their own mark now by maybe 80 home runs, which is just, that's video game type stuff.
Yeah.
And they're only ranked 5th in the country in this week's ESPN.com USA softball poll, which is ludicrous. But, you got to give props to – if I'm going to give props to an Oklahoma program, I'm going to give it to that softball team.
Yeah. You have to.
They're about
it's the reality of it. Yeah.
It really is. It really is. Again, Tennessee comes in at number 1, 14-0, and then Texas Tech is second at 16-1, followed by the defending national champs, University of Texas, at 14-1 and ranked number 3. Again, Oklahoma comes in at number 5, maybe the best 5th-ranked team in any sport in the country.
Mm-hmm.
That's on the softball side of things. And once again, we do hope to be able to kind of shift to those spring sports. Not that we're in a hurry to get there, Matt. It's just a lot to try to follow. And there's a lot going on right now, but they're really not in conference play yet. So that's when it'll pick up speed for sure.
Yeah.
I hope we didn't use all of your back page items that you had. Pretty good detail. You got anything else for us this morning?
A couple little things. One, heard that, I don't know, you may have just got the breaking news, which wasn't breaking news because we all knew it was going to happen, that the Cowboys did officially franchise tag George Pickens. But a lot of talk about the Cowboys looking linebacker in the draft. One of the biggest linebackers, the name that I had originally seen associated with the Cowboys at that, what do they have, number 12 pick, I believe. But he's starting to push up a little higher now on the draft boards, is Sonny Styles out of Ohio State, which love that name. But I don't know if you saw, he had a 43.5-inch vertical jump at the combine, which was the highest by an off-ball linebacker at the combine since 2003, and the second highest by any linebacker during that time, behind Cameron Wake's 45.5-inch vertical. in 2005. Sonny Styles is a 6'5", 244-pound linebacker who ran a 4.46 in the 40-yard dash and apparently has a 43.5-inch vertical. I didn't know they made humans like that. That is crazy to me. That seems like a game changer in the draft. So that was one thing that stood out to me. I don't know if you've seen anything about him or about the combine in general that you want to talk about.
Yeah, on the Sonny Styles thing, many early mock drafts had overwhelmingly him being available and going to Dallas at 12. I don't think he gets that far.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any chance he makes it out of the top 10 and could possibly work into a top 5. It's going to come down to, of course, that old argument that's popped up recently in for many years about, how high do you draft a linebacker?
Yeah.
But you just said the numbers you just said, of course, he up until the last couple of years, he was recruited to Ohio State as a safety and played safety, and they've moved him up into the box, and he's now become a linebacker. Kind of reminds me a whole lot of Darren Woodson, to be honest, kind of game that he has. Woody didn't have these kinds of measurables, but
you do.
Yeah, you do. Micah Parsons actually had some pretty good numbers similar to that, I believe. The thing with Micah coming out was he didn't play a senior year.
Yeah.
And there was question about his character, but it's kind of funny. Everybody talks about character in the NFL and what it means, but if a guy does what Sonny Styles did, nobody really cares about character. I'm not saying he's a bad character guy. I'm just saying,
right.
It's kind of ludicrous to think that you're going to pass on a kid. I know one thing: Cowboy fans and Jerry Jones regret passing on Randy Moss.
Yep.
Who's the poster child for bad character.
Yep.
Coming out of that, and the combine is changed. Yes, I don't want to take too much of your back page time, but it's kind of changed over the years in the sense that it's not necessarily so much it kind of reminded me of tryout camp. A lot, and it's not really that at all. It's a testing camp is what it is. But if you followed it any recently, it's become just another event on the NFL calendar. Everyone in the organization who knows anything or covers football goes to Indianapolis for this thing.
Yeah.
And most of them are not having anything to do with what's going on in Lucas Oil Stadium. It's just a place to be in terms of getting interviews for media, talking to all kinds of people because they're all there. It's kind of like the Super Bowl was.
Right.
And so it's just kind of neat to see that evolution on that. It's become more of a I don't really know what to say. It's a reunion type event where everybody who is everybody in the league shows up. And from a journalist standpoint, that's gold. I mean, because everybody that you need to possibly talk to and get stuff from, you get gold stuff from that this week in Indianapolis. But yeah, I saw that yesterday, and my first thought was, well, he's not going to make it down to Dallas.
No,
they're going to have to go another way. I will mention this one thing too, since you mentioned it and brought it up. The big discussion now is about these measurables in terms of like guys like Reuben Bain with the short arms.
Yes.
Cassius Howell at Texas A&M as well, measured with somewhat short arms. I really don't know if my arms are considered short, but I've never had a problem using them for what I want to. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's just they start talking about short arms and maybe a tick off here or there. I'm just thinking, look, the most apex predator that's ever walked this earth was the what? The Tyrannosaurus Rex. And that T-Rex didn't care about his little arms. He still got the job done. And so I am hoping that a Reuben Bain, who's a top 5 talent, drops because of those short arms. Because if I'm Dallas needing a pass rusher, I'm going to go get the T-Rex.
Yep.
And, so anyway, good stuff there. What else you got for us? Anything else?
Just to kind of put a bow on that, it kind of reminds me of when Bobby Knight was asked who the Portland Trailblazers should draft, and he said you should draft Michael Jordan, and he was told, but they need a center, and he said, well, then you draft him and play him at center. So if you're good, you're good. The other thing
they could do that now. It would fit in real well with the game.
Yeah, it actually actually kind of would. The other thing that stood out to me, I think, and this builds on something else that I just talked about with college basketball. I've talked about the major teams playing, but Monday night conference tournaments begin. They begin in the Horizon League and I think the Patriot League. By Monday and Tuesday, the Horizon, the Patriot League, and the Sun Belt will have begun conference tournament play. And the Sun Belt, that's a conference where there's teams that have made noise in the playoffs before, like Appalachian State, Old Dominion, Georgia State. In the Horizon League, you may remember Jack Golke and Oakland, who effectively were the reason that John Calipari is now at Arkansas, because they got done with him. So I love these conference tournaments. I think they're just like high level stuff to watch. Some of my favorite stuff. These little schools, and by the time we get to next weekend, you're going to get to those conference tournament championships for two little schools that are playing for, this is either your last game or you're going to the national championship tournament. And it's amazing. It's so much fun. And so I love conference championship season.
Yeah. And it creates more excitement at those smaller ones for sure, as you said. As opposed to, the larger, the SECs, the Big Tens, when you're going to have, 10 of your teams, most of which probably get beat in the first or second round. It's no big deal, right? They know they're in the tournament. But those smaller conferences, man, that is some exciting basketball to watch because it means something. It means a lot more, those championship games do.
Well, for so many of those kids, this is it. You're done after this. That game is either it for you in basketball, or you get this one. And honestly, I shared this kind of reflecting on what it was like watching my son's last basketball game in the playoffs against Anna. Like, we got there, and I could tell pretty quickly this was his last game, but his last moment was getting to that moment, and it was really, really cool.
Yeah, that is really, really cool. And again, means something in terms of just pure unadulterated joy in sport.
Yep.
It comes down to that stuff for sure. I love that time of year as well. Okay. I've got a lot here on mine, and that's kind of why I may have breezed through the upper half of our show this morning, because I wanted to get to some stuff. And there's actually, you brought up some more questions for me here that I'm going to very quickly add. So feel free to jump in here, obviously, Matt, with your takes on this as well. I don't know if you read the ESPN article yesterday about the whole Kobe and Jordan thing with the Nike shoes, the shoe deals. Did you read that?
Saw a headline, didn't dig into it.
What the gist of that story is, and it's a great story. And again, I love finding out things that I didn't know, particularly when it pertains to history, right?
Yeah.
But so everybody knows, what's Kobe Bryant's nickname? The Black Mamba. That's right. He's the Mamba. Everybody know what the Mamba is, of course, where that comes from. That is the most lethal snake on the planet. And fit Kobe well. It's a great, athletic moniker, whatever you want to do. But Kobe had a shoe line, basically through Nike, that built on that, with his reputation as the Mamba, the Black Mamba.
Yep.
So unbeknownst to me, until I read this article, before there was ever anything done with Kobe Bryant and the Mamba, of course, Air Jordans, basically, it was the first of the shoe game, right?
Yeah.
Jordan, with the Air Jordan line through Nike and all that kind of stuff, has built us into this industry that we are today with shoes and things like that, professional athletes. Well, according to this article, Jordan was approached first about this Black Mamba campaign, this snake campaign. And Michael, and it's very fascinating to see. Everybody knows Michael Jordan on the court, and you kind of mentioned it yesterday. He's a little bit crazy, but he was also a very adept businessman. obviously. So whenever his Air Jordans come out, every new line of that, every new version of that shoe gets run by him ultimately, and he gives a thumbs up or he gives a thumbs down. And he was approached with this idea of the snakes, and he's like, he's asking all these questions about, how long does the material last? I mean, they're literally talking about putting snake skin in the shoe.
Yeah.
And he says, okay, I'm going to have to think about it. Well, the people close to him, when he started talking to him, understood that he was never going to approve this shoe because he has a fear of snakes. So he didn't want to put his name on something which he was not going to wear. He didn't even want to wear dead snake skin.
Yeah.
And so it was a phobia with snakes. And so ultimately MJ passed on the Mamba line. Well, Nike, of course, thinks this is a great idea, and they keep pushing it. Well, they eventually find Kobe Bryant, who at the time was coming off of his personal issues with the whole rape trial and things like that, where he was going through some things like that in the courts. So he's looking to kind of remake his image in around 2003, 2004, something like that. And anyway, he found out about this snake idea. And I don't know if you ever saw this cover on SI. They debuted the whole Black Mamba push with Kobe Bryant and the shoes and the moniker and nickname and everything on Sports Illustrated, where he's actually got a Black Mamba snake around his neck.
Yeah. Yeah.
All of that to say, and Kobe, of course, by and large, turned his professional career around, turned his image around, largely because he became known as the Mamba. And yes, there it is right there, Mamba mentality. Of course, everybody's listening here and knows anything about basketball knows what we're talking about with Mamba thing. But that was the beginning of that. And there's an article again on ESPN. I encourage anybody to go there.
I just looked it up. That's crazy. Like I had no idea.
Long, in-depth pieces, but I saw it first and I was like, with the headline, and it's like, how Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan got so much in common, they didn't even know it, right? And
yeah.
But anyway, the gist of it is that MJ turned down that campaign, and it ended up going to Kobe Bryant. Of course, the rest is history. So to this day, even rest in peace. He's known as the Mamba.
That's really crazy. And I want to be careful about how I say this because I want to be clear. I think some people try to put Kobe and Jordan on the same plane as player that they're not. Okay. I'm not disparaging Kobe Bryant at all. He's a Hall of Famer, a bona fide Hall of Famer, but there's levels to this, and he's not on the level that Jordan was. But as far as type of player, in all ways, what it looked like on the court, the way he chose to lead, the mentality and the attitude, he is the closest thing in all ways to a type of player like Michael Jordan that we have seen since. He's the closest.
100%. And as typically what things happen as players get older, real fans will, you might have some animosity toward that player in his younger days, because let's be honest, we all do stupid stuff when we're young.
Yep.
But as we get older, we get more perspective. We start to actually gain a little bit more respect. And for me personally, Kobe Bryant did that. I hated that the Mavs had to go through the Lakers. If they wanted to get to the finals, of course, you had to go through, back in the day with Kobe, you had to go through the Lakers pretty much. That's the way it was. And, but yes, I put him on the level above LeBron just simply because he had the Jordan mentality. And I don't think LeBron has that. I don't think LeBron has that killer instinct necessarily the way Jordan did. I don't think, and to kind of go back to put it in more perspective, and maybe this is good, maybe this is bad, I don't know. But you mentioned, MJ's mentality crossed the line in a lot of ways. Maybe that's a good thing that LeBron doesn't have that.
It's definitely a good thing. And here, I'll say this because look, this feels like in the middle of summer when there's almost no sports going on. Here's a topic we can do a whole podcast on. So I'm not going to get into a whole thing, but like as far as on the court accomplishments and dominance, there is only one person that's on the level as Jordan, and that's LeBron. Like that, they're number one and number two. So, and if you want to say Kobe was tougher minded than LeBron, sure, I can go along with that, maybe, but I don't even think Kobe's on LeBron's plane. The difference between LeBron and Michael Jordan is LeBron is always going to make the best basketball play. Always. Jordan always believes he is the best basketball play. So if LeBron drives into the lane and three guys collapse on him and his shooter that you've never heard of is wide open late in the game, LeBron's going to kick it to that guy because that's the best basketball play. You trust your teammate to make that. Jordan is not passing that ball. Jordan's going to take the shot with three guys on him, and more than half the time he was going to make it. But to me, that's the main difference. But yeah, Kobe's great. There's so many great players, but to me, the only one that, if you're talking who's the greatest of all time in the NBA, the only one that's in the conversation with Michael Jordan is LeBron. It's two, and then it's everybody else.
We'll disagree on that, and maybe bring it up at some other point in time. I just have a really more of a philosophical disagreement on that in terms of
right, for sure.
What the player who makes whatever, just for instance, he makes what, $70 million a year, or he's getting paid whatever it is. I don't want him making the basketball play. I want him making the winning. I want him making the winning play. I'm paying him to win. But anyway, we'll get into that later. Like you said, we'll bring that up in the summer when we're pretty slow. But it's an interesting discussion to have. It's an internal discussion to have because you can have 300 people in the room, 300 different opinions. That's just the way it's going to be on that particular thing as well. Moving on here to some other things I have here I wanted to get to. Did you see this yesterday? It's bye-bye football shorts.
I saw, again, another headline I saw, but didn't dig into.
Well, this was a tweet that I noticed yesterday that came through by the college transfer portal tweet. It says the NCAA will mandate that players must cover up their skin from the waist down, similar to the NFL rules. This will come into effect immediately for the 2026 season. I'm all excited with that. You know my stance on that. We've shared it on the podcast back in football season. Actually, more questions as to why our football players are not covering their knees. Some of them not covering their thighs with thigh pads, and they, in effect, are wearing shorts, both in college football and in the NFL. But if you read down in, and it kind of excited me a little bit to read that, when you read down into it, just to make sure, this is real, this is not a fake tweet, fake news kind of thing. Yes, the NCAA is mandating things, but it's not, as it says here in this tweet, must cover up their skin. There's going to be some parts of that are going to be open to interpretation that you read into that. So, look, I'm glad that someone's acknowledged it and said, hey, this is not what we want with our players. Just from a safety standpoint, I don't care about seeing your legs. I don't want your knees to get taken out because you're not wearing knee pads, which, I mean, let's face it, if somebody takes out your knee, that pad is probably not going to do much good for you.
Right.
But it still looks like a safety measure. Anyway, I just thought that was interesting since you and I had been ahead of the game here and talking about it last year. Apparently someone's listening to our podcast and listening to us, Matt.
Well, I mean, and you and I were both pretty clear we didn't like it. I feel like you were probably more adamant than I was. But I'm proud of us for making things happen. That's
right. We're here to make a difference in our world. That is for sure. Some other things, again, NCAA related that came across my desk yesterday. I actually do work on the side. I don't stay on Twitter, but just so people will know, all my clients out there listening, I hear you. But did you know that the NCAA is cracking down on tampering? Finally.
I hear that.
And here's the deal with this, and I don't want to spend too much time on it because we spent too much time on some other stuff already, and I got something else I want to get to. But look, you can go read the story that came across. It's on everybody's newswire about the NCAA now is going to crack down on all this tampering within the transfer portal, right?
Right.
the thing that caught my attention was it said after an 18-month pause. My question is, why are we pausing, cracking down on cheating?
Yeah,
why? Who came up with the 18-month decision? Okay, we're gonna turn our head and y'all can do whatever you want for 18 months, and then we're gonna crack down on you.
And if you're gonna do it, why don't announce it?
Right.
Don't announce that we're pausing this for 8 to, I don't know. I could write a whole book about things that the NCAA does that make no sense to me.
Oh yeah, that's another podcast that we'll hold on to for the summer. But I have to think that the whole Dabo Swinney press conference, pointing the finger at Ole Miss in particular for some of the things that are happening there. The signing of a contract, and then the next day going back into the portal and accepting another or committing to another place after that because you got to offer more money. That has to have something to do with the NCAA now standing up and saying, look, we've got control of this. We haven't for the last 18 months for some reason. We've been turning a blind eye.
Right.
But that does sound, I agree with you, that does sound typically like what the NCAA does. And we may get, again, in the summer, when you and I are planning out here our summer for sure. But we may do that and kind of give some more insight again from both of our perspective on what actually goes into what the NCAA does. There's not a whole lot of people out there that can tell you exactly what the NCAA does.
Right.
To be honest, particularly with all the money that they make from the college playoff and the men's college basketball and the NCAA tournament, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, another thing here of interest for you, I know I saw that the University of Louisiana at Monroe has announced that they are going to add a jersey patch in support of Samaritan's Purse.
Really cool.
Which cost $100,000, of course, to get that patch on there. So Samaritan's Purse will be a sponsor of ULM.
Vital ministry in our church, and I know in so many other churches, the shoebox ministry,
Operation Christmas Child, right?
Yes, done through Samaritan's Purse. So I just thought that was really, really cool, really interesting too.
It was cool as well, and I wanted to tie this in with it here because of your allegiances to our neighbors to the north. This is from Curry Hicks Sage, tweet put out yesterday that the University of Arkansas, on this same note, is imminently set to strike a major sponsorship deal with Tyson Chicken.
Not a shocker there.
Part of the deal, the poultry company's logo is expected to appear on Razorback jerseys for years to come, meaning your hogs are going to have chickens on their jerseys.
Well, you do know the whole story that most people believe that Tyson is the whole reason we have John Calipari, because Calipari was friends with him. Literally, he's friends with John Tyson or Don. I'm blanking on his name, but anyway, the first conversation about Calipari coming to Arkansas was not with our athletic director; it was with Tyson, and it got Calipari thinking. And then our athletic director kind of followed up, and it all sort of snowballed from there. So. Yeah, man. I mean, at this point, the way basketball's looking for us and having John Calipari, I mean, like whatever Tyson wants to do, like if what was it? I don't know if you remember the Seinfeld episode where
I remember every Seinfeld episode.
The guy playing Steinbrenner was talking with trading George to Tyson, and Tyson would put all the chicken products in the concessions, including some alcoholic chicken version thing. I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, whatever they need to do. If he can come out there and get us John Calipari, then by all means, do whatever you need to with Tyson.
Don't tell me that your guys don't have money, because you have Tyson Chicken, you have Walmart, you have Jerry Jones. I mean, come on.
JB Hunt. I mean, like, yeah.
Don't tell me your NIL shouldn't be best in the country or right up there.
Exactly.
So, and this one is a bit of a personal note for me, and I just wanted to mention it here and as a little bit of personal testimony. So I saw this headline come across yesterday with Chris Bosh, of course, said that he's lucky to be alive. He had a recent health scare Of course, and I remember when this news came up, but Bosh is now actually telling his side of the story. When he woke up and he saw that he was covered in his own blood. This came out in a social media video, which was put out on Wednesday. This is Chris Bosh. He says this is, it was crazy. It was fast. It was instant. There was no warning. I didn't have any time to prepare for it. I was getting ready to go on a date with my wife. And the next thing you know, I was on the ground. This, of course, you remember Chris Bosh, the big three in Miami, right? And retired from the NBA in February of 2019 because of blood clot issues. He had a blood clotting disorder, apparently, that came up. Even in this video, he said he's still recovering, and he can't hide the fact that he's got there's something about his eyes that you can tell that he's got a lack of blood up there. I mean, it's still a problem that he's going through. He was hospitalized with a pulmonary embolism, which basically, again, is a blood clot in your leg that breaks off and goes into your lungs. This caught my attention because back in 2001, I had the exact same thing. I had a pulmonary embolism, and I had a couple of problems before with blood clots. They put you what they do. They put you on blood thinner, and then they test your blood for a certain amount of time. And as long as you are at the right level in terms of thinness in your blood, you're not at danger for a blood clot. So I'd had that a couple of times before, and then in 2001, I had this pain in my left calf, right behind my knee. I thought I'd pulled the muscle. I've been on a couple of long bus trips with ETBU at the time, and did a Easter drama at church in which I was pretty physical role as a soldier, throwing Jesus around, things like that, or the Jesus actor, I should say.
Very good.
And so that June, I had this throbbing pain in the back of my knee, and I had blood clots before, and I didn't even think about it. So anyway, it got to the point where I couldn't walk, and so I go over to the hospital in Longview, and anyway, they set me up for a sonogram, and I go in there, and they do the little ultrasound thing on your leg, and I'm thinking they're going to send me home with some medicine, some painkiller, things like that. Well, they immediately put me in the hospital, in medium intensive care unit, and had me hooked up to all these IVs and tell me not to move. And I'm like, what in the world is going on where you've got a blood clot that's gone into your lung? And this is where the testimony part comes in. And again, hopefully people know our relationship with the Lord. Obviously, I mean, you're a pastor, but so the day before, the thing that got me to the doctor was the pain in my leg had kind of subsided, but I'd been on a golf course with some coaching buddies, and I couldn't breathe the whole time. We were on the course, and I had a hard time catching my breath. And they were laughing at me, thinking I was using it as an excuse for the way I was playing, how that goes. But it was really a problem. So the next day, the pain in my leg returned, and so that's how I went to the doctor. Well, anyway, that was, and the doctor told me this after the diagnosis. He said, that's the blood clot settling in your lungs, the reason you couldn't breathe. And he said, honestly, and Matt, you don't understand what I'm saying. No one understands until you've experienced something like this. A doctor will look at you and he will say, I don't know why you're still here. I mean, he literally said that to me. And he said, I could have been standing next to you on the golf course, and there was nothing I could have done to help you. Right. And when I read that, Chris Bosh is waking up in his own blood, it kind of gave me some flashbacks to that, because that's kind of how it is. I mean, you're there 1 minute and then you're gone the next. That's the danger of a blood clot, particularly getting into your lungs and around your heart. And so all of that to say, and to this day, I take blood thinners every day. I get my blood monitored. I have a genetic defect in my blood that causes this, and I'll be doing this the rest of my life. But I just want to urge everyone out there, if you're having any issues with pain, particularly in your lower extremities, in your leg and your calf and your ankle, and it's a red area and it's got heat in it and it's painful to painful to just touch it like at all, you need to go see a doctor, because you probably have a blood clot there. And at any point in time, that thing can break loose and go into your lung. And again, I had other things that the Lord needed me to do to be here, because I literally had the doctor tell me, I don't know why there's no reason why you're still here. The size of this clot should have killed you. And so anyway, when I read things like that with Chris Bosh, I have to share that story, because I can relate to that. I can relate to what he went to waking up. Wasn't covered in blood. It wasn't anything like that. But I mean, that's a real thing, that it's the silent killer. And anyway, I just wanted to use that as an opportunity to just encourage you. Be careful with your body. And when you're on a long plane ride, get up and walk around. It's okay to do that. And keep those clots out of your legs, because that can be a serious thing.
For sure. Man, what a story.
Okay, so let's get into our real quickly here and close out this date in sports history. We got a couple of things here of interest. On this date, which is February the 27th, of course, in 1987, the NCAA handed down the dreaded death penalty to SMU. This is the only one to this day that's been handed down in major college football history. They canceled SMU's entire 1987 football season, of course, after repeated recruiting violations and a pay-for-play scandal, which ironically, we would call that a Tuesday in today's world.
No,
all of this happens right now, and it's legal, right? But anyway, SMU, of course, got the death penalty for that. We kind of talked about the Miracle on Ice, and kind of, if you weren't there, you don't really remember what happened. They only canceled one season. SMU on their own canceled the 1988 season because they felt like losing one season, they needed another season to completely rebuild. And so they actually were out 2 years, and then, of course, came back in 1989. And I don't know if you remember this, Matt. You may have been too young, but when they came back, of course, before had all the extravagance of the Pony Express and, Eric Dickerson and Craig James and all of that bunch. They played in Texas Stadium, and they were the Saturday night primetime game in a lot of ways there in the old Southwest Conference. That was just how dominant SMU was back at the time, obviously for these kinds of reasons. But when they came back, they moved back to their on campus. They rebuilt their own campus stadium. Became more of a college football program rather than playing in a pro stadium kind of thing.
Yeah,
kind of a huge deal. Of course, Forrest Gregg was their coach that they brought back, and he literally. They were a D3 program because they couldn't recruit. They hadn't recruited in 2 years. And so that 1989 season, I remember guys that I played with that were backups at Marshall High School went to SMU, man, because it was an opportunity to play college football, and they were taking just about anybody that would come put on a uniform.
Yep.
And those guys got to play college football because of the death penalty. And anyway, so today's the day, though, when the NCAA handed down that penalty in 1987.
Yeah, and the Southwest Conference was the Wild West back then. To be honest, and I'm sure everybody to some extent was doing it, but by and large, the only two schools that kind of escaped scrutiny from the NCAA were yours and mine. I mean, every other school was pretty much either got punished or was, you look at the Houston Cougars, you look at A&M under Jackie Sherrill. I mean, we had it was rampant, and it was just unfortunate for SMU that that they were the guinea pigs, and they're the reason that we were like, oh, we're never doing that again.
And that's the thing, like you mentioned Texas, you mentioned Arkansas, you mentioned, all of that. And of course, Oklahoma. Go ask Barry Switzer about stuff that happened back in that day. I mean,
yeah,
we were knee deep in it as well, but it was one of those, like you said, everybody was doing it. Everybody was doing exactly what SMU was doing. It's just, they were SMU. And at some point, the power, they've got some pretty deep pocketed alumni that were part of this, who kind of kept the NCAA at bay, because this was going on for years. I mean, go watch the Pony Express 30 for 30 on ESPN. It'll tell you all the story if you weren't around to remember all this or see it. But yeah, man, it was basically everything that is now legal happening in the 1980s at SMU, and it was illegal then. But everybody was doing it, and everybody knew everybody was doing it. But look, the NCAA is not going to come in and cancel. Give the University of Texas the death penalty.
No.
They're not going to give Arkansas the death penalty. But
yeah,
they'll take the little private school in Dallas and slap them. Well, not slap them on the hand. Obviously, wasn't slap on the hand, but they'll give them a year off and tell you, now you guys go to your room and think about this. And I mean, up until recently, SMU still hadn't recovered from all
Yeah,
that.
that year off was decades of
Oh,
recovery.
yes. You remember when they went shortly after, I believe it was to Oklahoma, and got beat by it was like 88-0, something like that. And folks were doing that to them all the time back in those days. It's hard to come back from that, man. That's why they call it the death penalty, because it's literally like you're rising from the dead.
Yep.
It takes you 20, 25 years to get back to competitive levels. So anyway, birthdays for today, some interesting notes here on some athletes who were born on this date. He's still not with us here, but in 1919, Johnny Pesky Pavaskovich, he became known as Johnny Pesky, was born in 1919 on February the 27th. One of the most beloved, I don't know if you even knew this. I know you have allegiances to the Celtics. I don't know about the Red Sox. But one of the most beloved players in Red Sox history, three-time All-Star, known for his heart and hustle, more so than his home run. But of course, his name now lives forever in the legendary books there in Boston, down the right field line. They have a short 302-foot foul pole, which is called what? Pesky's pole. He had a knack. When he did hit one deep, he could wrap it around that foul pole. And so they gave him the moniker, gave that pole the moniker. This is Pesky's pole, which is still known to this day. It was dedicated actually in his memory, or actually to him in 2006. He died in 2012 at the age of 92. So
that's cool.
The legendary Johnny Pesky of Pesky's pole fame was born on this date, 1919. You will know this fella, 1961. Happy birthday to James Worthy.
Yes.
Later known as Big Game James of the LA Lakers Showtime era, but he actually Hall of Famer James Worthy turned 65 today, 65 years old. He actually was, I believe I heard something from here recently, maybe during All-Star weekend. Or no, it was just this week with the Pat Riley thing, right?
He was there.
And,
he was the one wearing a tie that Pat Riley was.
He was, and he had some interesting. He kind of was very critical of the Lakers right now. Some of his comments, which you don't hear from him a whole lot. He's the ultimate team player. I could make the argument to you, and maybe, hopefully, you would agree that he was maybe kind of the glue on that bunch.
Yeah,
the flash and dash was, Magic and Kareem and some of those other guys, but James Worthy was you could depend on him most every night.
I kind of, so that era, it was Celtics Lakers, right? I mean, you had 3 out of 4 years where they met in the finals. And I feel like what Worthy was around Magic and Kareem, you go over to the Celtics where there's Bird and McHale. I felt like Dennis Johnson was that for the Celtics.
Agreed.
And so, Worthy was better than Dennis Johnson, but at the same time, Dennis Johnson had the knack. There's that famous steal that Bird has of the inbound pass against the Pistons, finds cutting Dennis Johnson. If you go back and look at that, the degree of difficulty on that layup was not easy. And so anyway, that's kind of how I view guys like Worthy. Hall of Famer for sure. I'm not saying he was just a good bit piece. He's a Hall of Famer, but yeah, he was kind of that one that I felt like stabilized things for them a lot.
Yeah, and this is, again, one of those things you and I are going to put on the back burner until the summer, where we can really dive into our memories of this rivalry. Because yes, I mean, I was not in particularly a fan of either one, but my formative years were built around this rivalry.
Yeah,
everybody's were in the 80s. So a lot of stuff we could dive into there, and of course get your perspective as a Celtics fan for sure. And then also on this date in 1976, NFL tight end, Hall of Fame tight end Tony Gonzalez was born. He turns 50 today. He was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2019 for basically redefining the position of tight end. As a downfield threat kind of guy. And man, I remember him, those gigantic hands and the smooth way he ran routes. And Tony Gonzalez may be the best that ever played that position. I hate to say that, but he may have been.
Well, he's got to be considered that, if only because he was part of what revolutionized the position into what it is now. You're starting to get guys that put up better stats than he did, but the only reason they are what they are is because he kind of introduced that whole idea and that kind of, I don't know what the word is. I'm not necessarily going to say it's not an attitude, but that whole this is what a tight end can be.
Right. Yeah. And I would give him credit for changing a lot of the way the game is played today in terms of who plays your tight end position. He had it all. He had the size, the blocking ability, the hands, the athletic ability. He was a problem out there facing a safety one-on-one for sure, and definitely a linebacker. But on this date in 1986, Jacques Plante, who was a Hall of Fame hockey goalie in the NHL, passed away from complications due to stomach cancer. He was only 57 years old. Did not know Jacques Plante. Again, not a tremendous hockey follower here, but he is best known on November the 1st, 1959. He got hit in the face, broke his nose with a stick. He returned to the ice. He played for the Montreal Canadiens. He returns to the ice wearing a fiberglass goalie mask, which was unheard of at the time. He's the very first hockey goalie to ever put on a mask.
Wow.
I did not know this, Matt. Prior to this event, 1959, hockey goalies did not wear a mask.
Good.
Same puck, same game, everything. They did not wear a mask. Can you imagine?
Insane.
Can you imagine, let's just say the other day in the gold medal game, Connor Hellebuck without wearing a mask, taking on 45 shots.
Oh my God.
90, many cases, a 90 mile per hour rubber puck coming at your face constantly. I tell you what, that would develop some good goaltending skills.
I mean, I guess. Holy cow.
You'd be covering, you just shoot at your feet because you're covering your face up the entire time. But Jacques Plante is known as the one who introduced the hockey goalie. And it started, ironically enough, during the game because he broke his nose. He took a shot to the nose from a stick.
I would wager that of all the sports and all the positions that wear masks, that should have been the most obvious one from the get-go.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
I know baseball catcher and umpire, you need it, but at the end of the day, more than likely it's going to take a foul tip because you always know when the ball's coming and you always know where it's coming. You don't ever know when you're playing goalie in hockey.
What is it about us human beings? Because it took something like this to put a mask on your goalie. How long did we go with leather helmets or no helmets in football? We still play rugby without helmets. If you remember back in the day in baseball, hitters just wore your cap up to the plate, right? And I mean, it took us forever, but we finally decided, hey, we might want to cover certain parts of our face that's important, and our head for sure. So anyway, that credit goes to Jacques Plante. Again, he passed away on this date in 1986. Wow. Okay, loaded show today, guys. It's been good. Final word of the day comes from Matthew chapter 6, verse 21. It says, "For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." From a sports perspective, you can tell what a team values by what they invest in, their time, their effort, their discipline. Jesus here says it's the same with us. Where our treasure is, that's where our heart is headed. Where is your treasure today? And as part of that, conversely, where is your heart headed? For my friend, Matt Paul, this is David Weaver signing off and getting us ready for a huge weekend here in East Texas and beyond. Have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy your time off and go watch some basketball or enjoy some good weather out in the yard. It's going to be a good weekend for it. We'll be back on Monday for another edition of From the Press Box here on the Right Team podcast. Until then, as always, keep writing your story.